Hi everyone, welcome to Spellbinder's Glimmering Flowers collection. These cards feature glimmering buttercups and glimmering peonies. I have used the coordinating stencils to do the coloring. These hot foil plates are large. The images are suitable for a 5x7 card or trimmed down as I have done for an A2 size. I did my foiling off camera. I used Aura hot foil and of course the glimmering hot foil system by Spellbinders. I'm starting off with Glimmering Buttercup and I'll be using Fresh Dye Inks by Altenew to do my stenciling. For the first stencil, I'm starting off with Citrus Bursts, a deeper yellow at the base, and then I'll finish the petals off with a lighter tone called Fresh Lemons. All of the stencils have an etched number to indicate the order in which to use them. These stencils are super easy to align to the image. For the second stencil, I'll follow the same method. I'll use maple yellow, a deep yellow at the base of the petals, and then I'll finish it off with honey drizzle. The inks are being applied with micro blending brushes. These work very well for the stencils for both flowers. The third stencil will start adding color to the foliage, and I'm using a bright spring green called Firefly. Stencil 4, I'll move to a medium green, which is called Grass Field. For the fifth and final stencil, I'll be applying a very dark green called Mountain Pine. And just like that, I'm finished the coloring and I'm going to move on to the Glimmering Peonies. If you prefer other methods of coloring, the glimmer plates for these flowers can be purchased on their own. First stencil is going to color part of the peonies and some of the foliage. Firefly is being applied to the leaves. For these flower petals, I'll be using a combination of wisteria and hydrangea. Again, the darker ink is applied to the base of the petals, and then I finish up with the lighter tone. For the second stencil, I'll be using even deeper purples with Andromeda at the base of the petals, and then a slightly lighter one called Ultraviolet. And like the first stencil, stencil 3 will color in some of the peony and foliage. And I'll continue with those same dark purples that were used in stencil 2, Andromeda and Ultraviolet, to finish up the peonies. For the foliage on this stencil, I'll go to that dark green Mountain Pine. I'll continue with that dark green for stencil 4 to color in the stems. Stencil 5 is the final stencil, and I'll be using Grass Field to complete the foliage. As I mentioned earlier, these foiled images are large and perfect for a 5x7 card. I wanted to illustrate that they work perfectly for an A2 size card as well, so I'll be trimming it down to 4 inches by 5¼ inches. And I work side to side, just trimming off a small amount at a time so that I make sure that I've got the cut that I want. I have learned the hard way that when you're taking a large image and taking it down to a much smaller size, if those cuts are too big at the beginning, you actually can throw the whole design off. And so I'm happy with the result, and I love drama, so I am going to be adding in a dark background with a Copic marker. I've chosen a blue which I thought would look beautiful with both the yellow buttercups and the purple peonies. Bead 39 is a nice deep tone. And using alcohol markers on foiled images, the ink can sit on the foil. This seems to be most prevalent with red tones, or rather I should say it's noticeable. In the case when you can see the ink sitting on the foil, it is easy to remove with the colorless blender. In that case, I just take that nib and run it along the foil line, and it just picks the ink up. I fully expected that I would have to do this with the blue ink, and I'm pretty sure that I got ink on the foil, but it didn't show at all. So that was one step that I didn't have to take. While applying the inks on both of these panels, I worked on section by section. I would apply one layer of ink and then go back and apply the ink again, taking it in the same direction. I used a horizontal sweep. This just helps to ensure that the tone is pretty consistent across the panel. For the sentiments for these cards, I'll be using press plates from Let's Celebrate Sentiments. I'm applying the same dark blue ink used on the background, B39, to porcelain cotton better press panels. Post-it note is used to secure the panel to the chase, and the press plates are placed on the magnetic platform. The sentiments are inked up with Versamark, and then I'll take my platform and run it through my die cutter. The impressions are sprinkled with gold embossing powder, and one of my plates must have slipped, so now I'm going to take my blue marker and just add a bit more ink so that there's no white showing when I die cut it. When the dies are positioned, I'll use some Post-it note tape to hold them in place so they don't shift as they go through the die cutter. They're close together, so I have to do them one at a time. I had to have some dimension on the card, so I used the dies for the sentiments to cut black sheet foam and stacked the sentiments die cuts on them. To be adding some small dots of shine to the panels. Unfortunately, the photography work was not very good at picking them up, but in real life, it is a sweet touch. I'm using a quickie glue pen. When this pen is depressed, it leaves just a little dot of glue, and it takes a little while to dry, so you can actually work the whole panel. And I'm adding a dark blue glitter that matches the background for a monochromatic look. When the panel is placed down on my work surface, you can catch some of that shine. It is so pretty. Gold foil cardstock that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inches is adhered to A2 size black card bases. The adhesive dots with the glitter is now dry, and I'm just going to use a stencil brush to remove any of that excess glitter. And then the panels that were trimmed down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches are adhered to the gold matted card bases. And this pair of cards is finished up by adhering the foamed back sentiments. When the light catches them, these panels look so pretty with the bits of sparkle. And that completes these 2 cards from Spellbinder's Glimmering Flowers collection, featuring Glimmering Buttercups and Glimmering Peonies. The coordinating stencils are fabulous and make for such quick and easy coloring. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and as always, I appreciate your visit.